Good afternoon from a boiling hot Peterborough. So the plan is just to talk about some of the plants that are in the garden, because there's quite a large number of plants. The whole garden is designed to a very loose theme of herbs and useful plants. So I thought we'd just talk you around some of the ones that you've been able to see around the pond as Steve's been doing his videos, and just go through some of the bits of rubbish that I can occasionally remember about things. So to start with, we'll start with the really obvious one, which is the Tansy, Tenacity vulgare. It's there mainly to attract insects. Obviously, the more pollinators I have in the garden, the better. At the moment it's not, but usually when the flowers are out properly, it's absolutely full of hoverflies. Very, very slight wish to try to attract some tansy beetle here, because they are found about 10 miles down the road in Cambridgeshire, but I haven't seen any yet, and that's just a pipe dream, I think. Tansy is a herb that does tend to grow very well in clay soils, which is quite lucky because that's what we've got here. Mentioned for an awful lot of herbal use by Nicholas Culpeper in the 17th century, I think he was. And used today externally against lice and worms. Interestingly, quite apparently a local East Anglian myth that you used it to increase fertility. However, it is also used as mortificant, and for the opposite of that. So very strong strictures against taking it internally. But it's bright yellow, and that's always good. It does need, if you want to plant it, it does need a lot of crowd control. It's very much confined to this area. A crowd control is easy, you just pull the strands out and it bounces back quite nicely. Next one to talk about, which unfortunately got a little bit of a hacking earlier in the year, is these babies, which are Elecampane or Inula. Legend has it, this is what Helen of Troy was picking when she was abducted by Paris. But the roots were used for candying by, I think, Romans and medieval times. Chief use at the moment is for chesty coughs and things like that. And it has just a fantastic bright yellow flower. It's usually about 7 foot tall, but I'm saying unfortunately this year got a bit of a battering. So that's the Inula. I think it's probably a type of daisy, I think.
Huge leaves.
Yeah. And then finally, just down here, which, because it's just gone in, is an Artemisia. So this is wormwood. The idea of planting it here is that it is supposed to be good for keeping away flies and mozzies and things like that. And actually, I think the tansy apparently is as well. Both of them are quite strong scents when you, and the Artemisia obviously will grow quite a lot bigger and fill in this gap of quite rubbish soil. I don't think there's anything else down there. Oh yeah. There's a Commelina, but I think I'll talk about that in another, which is this one. It's a bright, real proper blue flower, but I'll talk about that on another day. Okay, so if we move around a little more, we have Rose. Now this has been in for, I don't know, 12 years, something like that, 10 years. It's called Blue for You. It is apparently the closest you can get to a blue rose. I would highly recommend it for being pretty robust, can cope with anything you throw at it. Massive blooms, particularly in the spring. This is its second flowering. As you can see, it's just starting to really show its colours again. And a really nice smell. Not too old lady. Also in this bed we have the sumac.
What was that again?
Sumac.
Sumac.
Or Rus typhina. The idea was to get the sumac that you actually buy in the supermarket to dry some of the leaves, the berries, sorry, but unfortunately I struggled to get hold of it. I could get hold of it from one nursery, so I went with what's more popularly available. This is a slow growing tree upwards, but does spread. And this was solely planted here in order to give shade to the deck over time. It does spread a little bit. It's another one that does tend to put up suckers, so you just have to watch out for that. But is well worth it. Look out in the autumn round the pond, because the colour of the leaves, all reds, oranges, absolutely beautiful. Not much going on underneath. Some self-seeded aquiledias down in the corner, which haven't flowered this year. These will be coming out. And some self-seeded hellebore. This is stinking hellebore, which beautiful green flowers in the spring. It likes this garden. What else? Oh, seem to have a surprise agastache. That's self-seeded from somewhere else in the garden. There's two of these round the pond. And there's also lavender again. Most of you will know about lavender. I don't tend to use it for much because I find the smell quite strong. But you know, it's supposed to be useful for putting yourself to sleep at night. I don't find it works, but and also just for the spring, the alpine strawberries. This was originally a herb bed, but the strawberries took over, so I'll let them have their head and eat them in the spring. Moving around to the next most obvious is the mulberry. You can see this is an absolute mass this year of berries. Now these are deliberately left on the tree this year because I have a freezer full from last year, and also to feed the birds. And if you look at the floor, you can see that birds like the fruit, particularly the blackbirds. We've had, how many young blackbirds have we had here under the mulberries?
Loads. They're here every day.
They are, yeah. So quite deliberate choice to keep them there. This does wash off in the rain, but so to encourage the birds. And for those of you who know your folklore, and I don't quite know why this is, your mulberry should always be planted with a medlar. There's a medlar elsewhere in the garden. What else do we have of note? We have a lot of poppies, because poppies are bright, happy, and these ones will be orange when it comes out. And we have this. This is called pleurisy root.
Pleurisy?
Yeah, it's I can't remember the actual proper name for it at the moment. It's an North American herb, but the root was used as in the name for treatment of pleurisy. I thought that was quite interesting, and again it's a bright, happy orange. This one I planted last year. Year before that, forgot about, and was quite pleased it came back. So that'll be out in a couple of days by the looks of it, and that's quite nice. Got other things in that bed that's come through. Again, look out for the irises early in the year. I planted copper ones, copper coloured. They're all vivid blue now, but yeah, look out for those as well. And big orange poppies, we're getting lovely next year. And the next most obvious thing around the pond is this baby. Is the rosemary, which probably most of you will have in your garden. Yeah, smells fabulous.
That smells beautiful.
Beautiful. Purple flowers at least twice a year. I tend to use it in tomato sauce, just so chopped tomatoes, very finely chopped onion, sprig of rosemary, and a little bit of sugar and some salt and pepper. It goes on pasta. That's probably what I use it for most, but obviously all sorts of things, bouquet garni, whatever you want to use it for. They do say that when rosemary grows very well in the garden, it means that the woman is dominant in the house. I'm not going to say anything, but I do have to take the hedge trimmers to it.
Don't take that as read. Or maybe do.
Yeah, so again, not much more. This is kind of
really
due for a haircut.
Taken over, that, isn't it?
It's due for a haircut, yeah. And hiding behind it are the raspberries, because you have to have raspberries. So that's just a quick run through what you can see from the pond, which you've been looking at on the videos. The aim is we'll probably go through some of the other areas in the garden. There's some on the decks, some Australian plants. There's the Garden of Good and Evil, as I call it, which is some poisons and some other interesting things. There's actual herbs at the bottom. There's sort of a herbaceous border behind the beds, which is not as colourful as it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Just coming to that time of year, and obviously, and then the veg as well. So if kind of that's what you guys want, then we'll sort of just talk through the other little bits and the odds and sods we've got in the garden. So yeah, I think that's about it. We'll any questions below, I'll try and keep an eye out and answer anyone you have. Obviously, I'm not a professional gardener. Plants in the garden, they either do great or they don't, in which case I'll give them another try, and then after that I won't bother. So there are some herbs that you won't see in this garden because they just won't grow.
So thank you very much, Kat. Let's hope we can get a series going about plants as stated. I'm quite interested in the poisonous garden. Clearly I want to stay away from that. We'll see how it goes. So in the meantime, stay safe. Thank you, Kat.
No worries. And happy gardening. Bye.